Hello, I'm Chris Close. I started footy as a kid, loved the game, played all my life. Played for Queensland, Australia, State of Origin, and in later years went on to manage Queensland and the Australian teams. Tell us about your nickname. How come they call you Choppy? Well, Choppy's a shortened variation of my nickname. My nickname's actually Chop Chop, and I got it as a kid, well, for basically being quite lazy. I used to go out with my workmates and I was about 12, I think. We were poisoning trees, and they claim I used to go chop chop and sit down for the rest of the day. So that's how I got Choppy. Tell us about growing up. Well, I grew up all over Queensland. I was born in Rockhampton. My father was a copper, a big sergeant, and we moved quite a bit. So I had a bit of time in Hervey Bay, a little bit of time at Proston down in the Wide Bay area. Went to Beaudesert, where I started my first grade rugby league career. Then I moved to Brisbane, spent a bit of time in Cunnamulla, then on to Brisbane, and then obviously down to Sydney and back to Queensland. Did you play other sports as a kid? Yeah, well I did. I love sport. We played a lot of different sports. I was never quite as good at any of the other sports that I played as I became in rugby league. So I concentrated largely on that, and as a result, I had a crack at cricket, was terrible. Basketball, wasn't tall enough, and rugby league just seemed to fit very well. Did my family support me? Yeah, they did. As a matter of fact, both sides of my family, by the time I'd taken off in my rugby league career, obviously it was my wife's parents as well as my own parents that supported us. But more importantly, as a kid, my dad drove me everywhere, to every training session, to every game, and I couldn't have asked for more. So, tell you what it's like for a country kid breaking into big time football. Well, it's a hell of a lot of fun, I can tell you that. We travelled a lot. We had to go great distances between towns to play the game, and which I said earlier was supported well by my family in that regard. And being a bush kid, you had great opportunities to do a lot of training which didn't involve the actual game. So we spent a lot of time running through the bush and hunting and chasing birds and doing crazy crap like that, but it was a great time for us. Tell us about getting your first break. Well, it was very automatic for me. I was a young kid, played rugby league, made a few representative sides, so you do get some reputation there. And obviously with that, comes your opportunity. I broke in as a first grade player into the Gold Coast representative team when I was 17 years of age, coached by Barry Muir. Frightening experience. Tell us about the great players I've played with. Well, I can tell you now I've played with the greatest, the one and only King, Walter J. Lewis. He was the best by a long shot. I've also had the great pleasure of playing with the likes of Mel Meninga, Brett Kenny, Steve Ella, these guys like Mick Cronin, Steve Rogers, the list goes on and on and on. I came from a great era of rugby league and some very, very talented players. The great players I played against, well obviously it's all the players that I just mentioned, because I played against all of those and with all of those. So they became partners in crime at one stage, but most of the time they were the enemy. Tell us about the great coaches that I played under. Well, once again, it's a long and varied list. I can remember that one of my favourite coaches was Ross Strudwick at Valleys. Ross was an Australian player, went on to coach in the first grade arena. I had Bob Fulton down at Manly, Frank Stanton, Arthur Beetson, Wayne Bennett, and there's too many for me to remember from there, but they were certainly great legends and icons of our great game. Tell us about my relationship with Dick Tosser Turner. Well, he was one of a kind. He was certainly my best mate. I was much younger than him, but he was much sillier than me. So we had a good relationship, and I don't think there were many weeks of my life that passed that I didn't call Dick and ask for some advice or just put a little bit of crap on him. But at the end of the day, the most unique person I've ever met, the most amazing person I've ever met, and very sadly missed. Tell us about playing State of Origin football. Well, it's hard to explain because unless you've done it, you really don't feel the experience. And State of Origin to me is all about the experience that you feel. Think of the greatest thing that's ever happened in your life and multiply it 1,000 times. Trying to imagine the loudest noise you've ever heard. Remember the toughest moment you've ever been in, and remember what it's like to be afraid, because State of Origin possesses all those great things. Explain the Queensland spirit. Well, if you're not a Queenslander, you've got no chance of understanding this. And simply, it's something that just happens. It's tangible, it's wonderful, and as I said before, unless you come from north of the border, well, don't even bother. What's best, playing for Australia or Origin? It's the toughest question I'll probably have to answer today. I think that the day they read your name out in an Australian side is probably the proudest moment of your life, because from a boy, that's what I dreamt to do, and I had the great privilege of being able to represent my country. And when you think of all those that died for our country, then simply playing for our country as a representative was pretty much piled into insignificance. But as a player, that's the sort of thing that drives you through the game. And I love playing for Australia, but Origin is, I think, the most unique rugby league experience that anybody, any player can be involved in. So certainly Origin for me. Why is Origin football so special? Once again, very tough question to answer. Origin is so special. It's a moment in time in your rugby league career that you just do not forget. It's something that is tougher, faster, madder, scarier than you've ever been involved before within your life. It lives up to all the hype, all the reputation, and you just live every minute of the game. Tell us about your greatest memory of the game. I've got some very, very good memories, but I think that when we held the shield high after the first State of Origin victory in 1980, after being flogged, ridiculed, belittled for the prior years that I played for Queensland, prior to State of Origin, to hold that shield up and to beat New South Wales, that was the greatest memory of the game that I've got. And to be led by Arthur Beetson, 35 years of age, what an amazing man. Tell us about your struggles with Eric Grothe on the field. Well, Eric was probably one of the greatest players that I think have played the game of rugby league. I certainly rank him and Kerry Boustead as the two best wingers that I've ever played with or against. Eric and I had one tussle. It was very short. He held on to Colin Scott's legs. I backhanded him. He got knocked out. I picked the ball up and scored a try. All over, Red Rover. What was it like being manager of the Origin team for all those years? Well, once again, unless you've done it, it's something that it's very tough to describe. But I always considered it a privilege. I absolutely loved all the time that I spent with the team. Second to being a player, I suppose being part of the management and coaching staff is a really great privilege. I always felt like that I was a guardian for the Queensland fans, and my role was to make sure that I was getting everything right so that every time we played the game, we gave Queensland the greatest opportunity of winning. And hopefully, in some small way, I may have contributed to that. So tell us what you're doing now. Well, I work for the Titans full time. I come down here under the request of Michael Searle and John Cartwright, the coach. I do a few things with the Titans, enjoy every one of them, and loving the life. The Fogs. I'm a board member of the Fogs. The Fogs is an organisation made up of all the players who have played State of Origin for Queensland. So it's a great company. We go out there, we raise money for the unfortunate, and we have a great time doing it. Did I ever want to coach? Well, I have coached. I actually coached at a senior level and also in a junior level. Enjoyed it very much. I've got no ambition to make a career of being a coach. What I have done has been successful, and I want to keep it that way. Am I married? Yes, I am. Amazingly enough, 31 years this year to the same woman. I don't think there's many people can say that. I've got 3 beautiful children and 1 absolutely adorable grandchild, and I love my family. The best bit of advice I've been given, I think that came from my dad. He always said to me, he didn't say much, Dad, but what he did say was always pretty good. And he just said to me once, mate, when you're right, you fight. And that's how I've lived my life. So what do I say to aspiring young rugby league players? Well, be true to yourself, guys. It's a hard road. But I'm telling you, if you stick to it and you make it, you'll go on one of the greatest roller coaster rides of your life. Just believe in yourself. Make sure that you give it everything you've got. Don't give up. Don't use drugs. And don't make a goose of yourself. Be nice. Well, what do I say to my fans? I reckon they'd be fairly fewly numbered by these days, but if you are a fan, thank you very much. Thank you for following my career. If you've had as much fun following my career as what I've had playing and living my dream afterwards, then I can tell you you'll be very satisfied with what you've got. So thank you very much again. If you are a fan, hang in there. There may be more to come.